Hi, guys and girls. I told you yesterday I wasn't feeling very well, so I'm calling out. But what we're doing here, I want to make sure that you're able to do this well, so I'm going to go over it with you, and hopefully you'll watch this video. We can do this step by step and be ready for when I'm coming back. All right, so remember that yesterday we were talking about the Battle of Gettysburg and why was it a turning point. Remember, a turning point is why is it a big change in the direction that the war was going. So remember that we looked at the background essay. And make sure that you have yours in front of you, that you're following along with me. Remember that as we looked over the background essay, we looked at each paragraph and we decided, was it a geographic factor or was it a morale factor? Remember with geography, we were looking at, did it have to do with land or places? And morale, did it have to do with feelings? Like we feel like hopeful that we're going to do well in the war. We feel possibly not so great, like we might lose. Okay, as we looked through, we saw that people were very worried about when Lee was coming up to the north. People started to run away. If you remember from the essay, it said here that people were flocking to the train depots to get out of town. So people are worried and upset. The new Union commander, George Meade, he didn't have a lot of time to prepare before the war happened. Even still, we had kind of the calm before the storm. People were kind of chilling out, eating cherries, flirting with the girls, helping people before the war started. And then now we're going to talk about the war. So what we're going to do today, you should have answered these questions. If you haven't answered these questions in your packet, make sure that you answer them. Remember that every part of this packet is going to be a mastery grade. So I'm going to be looking to see, did you highlight or underline your background essay? Did you write G for geography or M for morale next to each paragraph? And then did you answer all of these questions completely? Okay, down here at the bottom, you've got some buckets. Some of you were able to get this finished today or yesterday. Some of you were not able to get this finished. So let me just check and make sure that you know what you're doing with these. We're organizing our thoughts. Remember that we're trying to answer the question, why was Gettysburg a turning point? So we want to kind of get some categories. What do we think are the major reasons why Gettysburg could possibly be a turning point? So some of you in your class, we were able to take a big piece of butcher paper and we were able to come up with some ideas. A lot of you came up with ideas that related to geography, like it turned back the invasion of the North. Okay, some of you came up with ideas that related to morale, that the South, I'm going to put morale up here. Remember, morale is how are we feeling? The South never recovered. You might also have thought about how Gettysburg had the most casualties, lots of casualties. And we could categorize this losses. Now, there's not a right or wrong answer here. So some of you that already filled these out, you might have had different choices. This is just us thinking about what kind of categories could we possibly put our answers to the questions in. So it's okay if you had different buckets, different labels to your buckets here. If you didn't have this part filled out, take a moment and fill this out now. I'm going to pause for a moment for anybody that's copying. Okay, what we're going to do today is we're going to analyze a couple of documents. Now, everybody needs to have grabbed this class copy paper. If you don't have a class copy paper, please go up to the black table under this screen, the projector screen, and pick up one of these class copies now. Notice how it says Document A at the top. That's how you know you have the right paper. Yeah, I'll wait a second for everybody to gather what they need. Okay, we are going to be looking at 2 of the documents today, and then you'll be looking at 2 of the documents in your groups. So I'm going to go over the 2 documents that I thought were a little bit more difficult first. So we're actually going to skip to document C. So in your class copy, flip to document C. Okay, in your packet, turn the page and find the part of the page that says Document Analysis Sheet Short Form. Okay, so we're going to start with document C. So you see up here where it says document letter or number, we're going to put C. Okay, let's look at this and see if we can find the source. Where does this come from? Okay, do you see the source? Here's the word source. It says excerpts from 2 letters written by General Robert E. Lee to Confederate President Jefferson Davis, 1863. Excuse me. Okay, so the source is going to be letters. Okay, now who's the author? Who wrote these? Well, it says by General Robert E. Lee. So we're going to put Robert E. Lee. Okay, now if we look back here, what's our date? Okay, according to the document here, it says the date is 1863. 1863. Now remember the difference between a primary source and a secondary source. A primary source comes directly from history, that the people who created the source were there when the history was happening. They experienced the history. A secondary source is written usually based off of primary sources. So the people weren't there, but they found out some information about what happened and they wrote something. So let's look at this and decide, is this a primary source? Is this written by somebody who was there? Well, it says General Robert E. Lee to Confederate President Jefferson Davis. Were they there during the Civil War? Yes, they were. Okay, so this is a primary source. This is from history.
I thought this was going to end up being...
Okay, now what we're going to look at is what is the main idea of the document? What is a key quote, image, or data? And how does it answer the essential question? Remember, the question we're looking at is, why was Gettysburg a turning point? Okay, so we're going to read this document now. Okay, so this is a letter, remember, from Robert E. Lee to President Jefferson Davis. It says, near Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, July 4th, 1863. Remember, when did Gettysburg happen? July 1st through 3rd, 1863. It says, Mr. President, it is believed that the enemy suffered severely in these operations, but our own loss has not been light. Okay, that means that they've had a lot of losses. They've had a lot of people killed or people injured, or remember from the video yesterday, some people were even missing. We didn't know what happened to them. General Barksdale is killed. Generals Garnett and Armistead are missing. Generals Pender and Trimble are wounded in the leg, General Hood in the arm, and General Heth slightly in the head. General Kemper, it is feared, is mortally wounded. And mortally wounded means he's probably going to die. Our losses embrace many other valuable officers and men. Very respectfully, and your obedient servant, General E. Lee, or Robert E. Lee, General. Okay, so he's talking about some of their losses. Okay, now the next letter. Camp Orange, Virginia, August 8th, 1863. So this is almost a month later after the battle. Mr. President, your letters of July 28th and August 2nd have been received. Okay, so they're writing letters back and forth. He's gotten a letter from President Jefferson Davis on July 28th and August 2nd. And I have waited for a leisure hour to reply. Leisure hour means like free time. I don't have any work to do, so free time that I could write you. But I fear that will never come. So he's really super busy. I have seen and heard of expression of discontent. Yeah, that means that people are unhappy. So he's seen and heard people are unhappy in the public journals, newspapers, at the result of the expedition. So at the result of Gettysburg. I therefore, in all sincerity, request your excellency, that's talking about the president, to take measures to supply my place, replace me. In other words, he's about done. He's thinking about quitting. I do this with the more earnestness, so I'm being truthful, I'm being honest here, because no one is more aware than myself of my inability for the duties of my position. So even though we've talked about how we think that he's a great general, he's saying, I failed and you should fire me and hire somebody else. I cannot even accomplish what I myself desire. Okay, I tried to invade the North, wasn't successful. How can I fulfill the expectations of others? So I'm not living up to what other people think I should do. With sentiments of great esteem, in other words, I respect you a lot. I am very respectfully and truly yours, R.E. Lee, General. Okay, and it says down here, note, President Davis did not accept General Lee's request. So General Lee tried to resign, tried to quit, and President Davis is like, I'm not going to accept your resignation. You're trying to quit. Okay, so back here, main idea of the document. Think for just a second. What is this document all about? Okay, what I would like you to do right now, turn to your shoulder partner, the person that you're sitting next to, and tell them what you think this document is all about. I'm going to give you about 30 seconds to discuss. Start with the person that has the biggest hand. So the person with the biggest hand is going to go first, and they're going to tell what do they think this document is all about. What's the main idea? Okay, so opinions are going to vary on this one. You might put down something slightly different than me. I'm going to fill this out because I'm trying to model for you, show you how you're going to do these other documents. So the main idea, what I hear General Lee talking about, I hear him talking about first all the losses and injuries of his generals. And then I heard him talking also about how the people of the South think he failed and that maybe he should quit because they think he failed. So I'm going to put the losses / casualties of the South. And I'm going to put especially here generals. Okay, and then I'm also going to put people of the South upset at Lee's defeat. Okay, the next one says key image, quote, or